2 months into humanity's provisional membership, Healer Nimloth approached Captain Jinho with an unusual request. "I have a young psychic who wants to try again," the healer said. "Her name is Listel. She's been studying human psychology and believes she can succeed where others failed." Jinho was skeptical. "The last 3 psychics who tried ended up traumatized. I don't want to hurt anyone else. Listel knows the risks. She's prepared differently. She doesn't want to understand everything in a human mind. She just wants to touch the surface safely, to prove it's possible." They were in the station's meditation garden, a space designed to be calming for multiple species. Water flowed in streams that defied gravity. Plants from a dozen worlds grew in careful harmony. The air smelled like something between cinnamon and ocean breeze. "Why?" Jinho asked. "Why is this so important to her?" Nimloth was quiet for a moment. "Because she believes the fear of human minds is causing unnecessary division. Some species are already refusing to work with humans. They see you as mentally contaminated, dangerous. If she can prove that human minds can be read safely, even partially, it might help bridge the gap." Jinho thought about the past 2 months, the slow progress, the careful translations, the way some aliens still flinched when humans entered a room. "All right, but I want medical teams standing by. And if she shows any sign of distress, we stop immediately." Artist Bora volunteered to be the test subject. She was a painter and poet, known for her calm demeanor and thoughtful nature. If anyone could make this work, the team reasoned, it would be her. They gathered in a small room designed for psychic work. Listel was young for her species, barely into adulthood. She looked like a floating collection of soft light, constantly shifting colors in gentle waves. Unlike the previous psychics who had approached with confidence, Listel seemed almost nervous. "I've been practicing," she said through a translator. "I've studied recordings of human brain activity. I've learned about your thought patterns. I won't try to read everything, just emotions, just the feeling underneath the thoughts." Bora sat down in a comfortable chair. "I'm ready when you are." "Think of something peaceful," Listel suggested. "A memory that makes you happy." Bora closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother's garden back on Earth, the way sunlight filtered through leaves, the smell of flowers, her grandmother's hands showing her how to mix paint colors. Listel approached slowly, her light dimmed, becoming softer, less intrusive. She didn't try to enter Bora's mind forcefully like the others had. Instead, she barely touched the surface, like dipping a toe into water. Everyone in the room held their breath. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Listel's colors shifted through soft pinks and golds. She pulled back gently. "I felt it," she said, wonder in her voice. Not the thoughts, not the words or images, but the feeling. Love, safety, nostalgia. It was beautiful. Bora opened her eyes, surprised. "That's exactly what I was feeling." "You could sense that through all the mental noise?" "The noise is still there," Listel admitted. "Like static on a communication channel. But underneath it, the emotions are clear, strong. Humans feel so much all the time. It's overwhelming, but not painful if I don't try to understand the thoughts themselves." Philosopher Jiyon, who had been observing, leaned forward with interest. "This is significant. Listel found a way to work with human minds instead of trying to read them completely." She adapted her approach. Over the next week, Listel practiced with other human volunteers. Each time she improved her technique. She learned to filter out the chaotic thoughts and focus only on emotional content. It wasn't traditional mind reading, but it was communication of a sort. When she tried with Engineer Taiyang, the human who had inadvertently traumatized Ambassador Velamora, something unexpected happened. "Your mind is fascinating," Listel said after the reading. "On the surface, there's chaos, thoughts bouncing everywhere. But deeper down, there's structure, patterns. Your chaos isn't random. It has purpose. You're solving problems by letting your mind make unexpected connections." Taeyang looked amazed. "That's exactly what I do. I let my thoughts wander until they find solutions I wasn't consciously looking for." "It's like a search algorithm," Technician Ki-hyun said, excited. "Your brain runs parallel processes, exploring multiple solution paths simultaneously. No wonder human innovation happens so quickly. You're essentially running multiple experiments in your head at once." Dr. Yuna had been recording everything. She pulled up comparative data. "Look at this. When we measure human problem-solving speed against other species, humans are middling, not the fastest, not the slowest. But when we measure creative solutions, unique approaches, unexpected connections. Humans are off the charts. We think sideways because our minds naturally make strange associations. The chaos is a feature, Gion said slowly, not a bug. Humans evolved to be creative because our survival depended on it. We couldn't outrun predators or outfight them. We had to outsmart them. Our chaotic minds generate more possible solutions than ordered minds do. Listel continued her sessions. With Medical Officer Suji, she felt the layers of anxiety but also the determination underneath. With Pilot Minho, she sensed the hypervigilance but also the deep loyalty and protective instinct driving it. You're never just one thing, Listel explained to the gathered humans and aliens. Every emotion has layers. You can be afraid and brave at the same time, angry and understanding, sad and hopeful. This would be contradictory for most species, but for humans, it's normal. You contain multitudes. Healer Nimloth was fascinated. This changes everything we thought we knew about consciousness. We assumed clarity of thought was necessary for intelligence. Humans proved that wrong. Complexity can be just as intelligent as simplicity. The breakthrough attracted attention. More psychics wanted to try Listel's approach. Not to read human minds completely, but to communicate with them emotionally. It was slower than traditional telepathy, but safer and more respectful. Ambassador Velmora, fully recovered now, requested a session. The crystal being approached Bora nervously. I want to try again, Velmora said. Not to understand your thoughts. Just to understand you, Bora agreed. This time, when Velmora touched her mind, the crystal being was prepared. Instead of trying to map every thought, Velmora simply felt the warmth of human emotion, felt the constant hum of care and worry and hope that ran under everything humans did. When they separated, Velmora was crying. Jinho didn't know crystal beings could cry, but liquid light dripped from where eyes might be. I'm sorry, Velmora said. I judged your species based on my trauma. I thought your minds were violent. But they're not. They're full. Full of thoughts and feelings and dreams and fears. You carry so much inside you all the time. Is that bad? Bora asked gently. No, it's heavy, but you carry it well. Better than I could. Velmora turned to address the other aliens who had gathered. I was wrong about humans. Their minds are not chaotic because they're broken. Their minds are chaotic because they're alive in a way we never imagined. They don't have one thought at a time because they're living one moment at a time, while simultaneously remembering the past and planning the future and imagining what could be. They exist in multiple tenses simultaneously. Dr. Hana smiled. That's the most poetic description of human consciousness I've ever heard. The sessions continued. More psychics learned to interact with human minds safely. They couldn't read thoughts, but they could feel intentions. They couldn't see memories, but they could sense character. It was a new form of telepathy, adapted specifically for humanity's unique mental structure. Coordinator Thixnal, the mantis being who had collapsed during the first reading, finally worked up the courage to try again with Suji. This time, prepared and careful, Thixnal spent 5 minutes in light contact with her mind. I understand now, the coordinator said afterward. Your anxiety isn't a failure. It's your brain trying to protect you by imagining every possible danger. The meditation isn't fighting the anxiety. It's making peace with it. You're not trying to stop the thoughts. You're learning to let them pass without drowning in them. Suji nodded, tears in her eyes. You understand it better than most humans do. Because I felt it, Thixnal said. I felt the exhaustion of fighting yourself. I felt the small victories when you manage a moment of peace. You're very brave. All of you are. 3 months after the first disastrous reading, the council reconvened to discuss humanity's status. This time the mood was different. Species after species spoke about their experiences working with humans. The communication was difficult but possible. The minds were chaotic but not hostile. The emotions were complex but genuine. Humans have taught us something valuable, Scholar Dreva said in the final session. We assumed intelligence required order. We assumed consciousness needed clarity. We assumed communication meant perfect understanding. Humans prove all of these assumptions wrong. They are intelligent despite chaos. They are conscious through complexity. They communicate despite constant misunderstanding. And perhaps most importantly, they never expected perfection from themselves or from us. Counselor Kresh called for the vote. This time it wasn't close. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council with full membership. Not despite their differences, but including them. Humans would be accepted provisionally for 1 galactic year. In that time, 3 weeks after the council vote, Linguist Nari sat in a conference room with her head in her hands. Around the table were 5 aliens, 2 other humans, and what had once been a simple conversation but was now a diplomatic incident. I said the weather was nice. Technician Ki-hyun repeated slowly. That's all. Just that the weather was nice. But you didn't mean that, the alien called Scholar Dreva said. Its blue fur rippled with confusion. Our translator received 17 different possible meanings. The weather is nice was only the most literal one. The others included suggestions of boredom, passive-aggressive commentary about the meeting length, genuine appreciation for atmospheric conditions, sarcasm about the artificial environment, and a reference to some Earth cultural context we don't understand. I just meant it was nice, Ki-hyun said helplessly. But your tone suggested otherwise, Dreva insisted. And your facial expression conveyed a third meaning. And your body posture implied yet another. How are we supposed to know which one is correct? Nari looked up. They're all correct. That's how human communication works. We pack multiple meanings into simple statements and expect the listener to figure out which one we actually mean based on context. One of the other aliens, a floating crystal cluster, chimed in musical tones. The translator rendered it as, "This is impossible. Language should have clear meaning. One word equals one concept. How do you ever understand each other?" We don't half the time, Nari admitted. Humans miscommunicate constantly. It's part of being human. We learn to ask for clarification. We read body language. We make educated guesses. Sometimes we're wrong and we fight about it. This explains so much about human history, Dreva said. All those wars that started over simple diplomatic exchanges. You weren't understanding each other even when you thought you were. The past 3 weeks had been a nightmare of miscommunication. Simple greetings became complex negotiations. Basic questions about food preferences turned into philosophical debates. A human saying we should talk about defense had nearly caused a panic because the translators couldn't tell if it meant defensive strategies, military aggression, a polite topic change, or concern about the meeting agenda. Ki-hyun had been working around the clock trying to improve the translation systems. His workspace was covered in holographic displays showing conversation analysis, contextual mapping, and cultural reference databases. Nothing worked properly. Show them the example from yesterday, he said to Nari. She pulled up a recording. Captain Jinho was talking to Counselor Kresh about meeting schedules. Simple enough. But when the translation system analyzed it, the holographic display lit up like a fireworks show. Captain Jinho said, "I suppose we could meet on Thursday if that works for you, but I'm flexible," Nari explained. Now watch what the translator tried to do with that. The display showed cascading interpretations, surface meaning, suggesting Thursday as a meeting time. Implied meaning, Thursday is not his preference but he'll accommodate. Emotional subtext, mild frustration with scheduling process. Social positioning, attempting to appear cooperative. Hidden meaning, wants the other person to suggest an alternative. Cultural context, flexible in English can mean many things. Tone indicator, slightly apologetic. Body language, shoulder tension suggests stress, and that's a simple sentence, Nari said. Now imagine a complex political discussion. The translator literally cannot keep up with how many layers of meaning humans pack into every statement. Can you just say what you mean directly? The crystal cluster asked. We think we are, Ki-hyun said. This is direct for humans. If we were being indirect, it would be much worse. A human psychologist named Ji-yeon had joined the team a week ago. She spoke up now. The problem is that human communication evolved for human brains. We're designed to process ambiguity. When someone says, "I'm fine," and we automatically analyze context, tone, relationship history, and current situation to determine if they really mean fine, or if they mean "I'm upset but don't want to talk about it," or "I'm fine but I need you to ask again," or any of a dozen other meanings. But how? Dreva asked. How do you process all that instantly? The same way we process all those simultaneous thoughts, Ji-yeon said. We do it automatically. Most humans aren't even aware they're doing it. We just intuitively understand the difference between fine said with a smile and fine said with a tight jaw. This is why the psychics collapsed, Scholar Dreva said suddenly. Your minds don't just think in chaos. You communicate in chaos. Every word you say has multiple meanings running in parallel, just like your thoughts. I never thought of it that way, Nari admitted. But you're right. Human language is just externalized human thought. Of course it's complicated. Ki-hyun pulled up his latest translation system design. I've been working on a 3-stage approach. Stage 1, literal translation of the words. Stage 2, contextual analysis based on the situation. Stage 3, emotional and cultural interpretation. All 3 outputs go to the alien listener, who can then choose which meaning seems most relevant. They tested it immediately. Nari said a simple phrase. That's interesting. Stage 1, translation. That is interesting. Stage 2, translation. The speaker acknowledges the information, but likely disagrees. Stage 3, translation. Polite dismissal. The speaker finds this boring or incorrect but doesn't want to cause offense. How did you know I meant it as polite dismissal? Nari asked the system. Ki-hyun grinned. Your eyebrows went up slightly, you paused before speaking, and your tone dropped at the end. The system learned to recognize these patterns from thousands of human conversation samples. It works, Driva said, examining the output. But look how long it took. Nearly 10 seconds to translate 3 words. A normal conversation would take hours. I know, Ki-hyun said, frustrated. I can make it accurate or fast, but not both. Human communication is too complex for real-time translation. They spent the next week trying different approaches, neural networks, quantum processors, hybrid systems that combined multiple AI algorithms. Nothing worked well enough. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Medical Officer Suji was chatting casually with a junior alien technician in the cafeteria. The technician's translator kept malfunctioning, producing gibberish. So they abandoned it and just tried to communicate directly. It was painful to watch. Suji would say something. The alien would look confused. Suji would rephrase. Still confused. Suji would use hand gestures, facial expressions, eventually drawing pictures on a tablet. Slowly, over the course of an hour, they managed to discuss the weather, food preferences, and their respective home planets. Nari watched from another table. Fascinated, she pulled out her device and started recording. When Suji and the alien finally parted ways, both looking exhausted but pleased, Nari rushed over. That was amazing, she said. Suji looked surprised. That was terrible. We barely understood each other. Exactly. But you did understand each other eventually. You adapted. You found ways to communicate despite the barriers. Nari was already thinking, what if that's the answer? What if we're approaching this wrong? What do you mean? We're trying to make perfect translation systems that can instantly convey all the layers of human communication. But maybe that's impossible. Maybe instead we need to teach aliens how to communicate the way humans do with each other when they don't share a language. She brought the idea to the team. Ki-hyun was skeptical at first. You want to make communication slower and less accurate? I want to make it functional, Nari said. Right now, aliens try to talk to humans and the translator gives them 17 meanings and they panic. What if instead we teach them to accept ambiguity, to ask questions, to clarify in real time? Jiyeon nodded slowly. It's how humans deal with miscommunication. We don't expect perfect understanding. We expect to have to explain ourselves multiple times. They designed a new protocol. Instead of trying to translate perfectly, the system would flag ambiguous statements and prompt the listener to ask for clarification. Instead of providing all possible meanings, it would provide the most likely meaning and a confidence score. That's interesting would translate as probable meaning, polite dismissal, confidence 70%, recommended action, ask if they have concerns. They tested it on a conversation between Captain Jinho and Ambassador Velmora. The crystal being had recovered enough to try limited interactions with humans. How are you feeling? Jinho asked. Translation. Social greeting with embedded concern check. Response expected, brief status update. I am recovering, Velmora said. The damage to my consciousness is healing. That's good to hear, Jinho said. Translation. Acknowledgement with positive emotion. Possible hidden meaning. Conversation may continue or end depending on social cues. Is it? Velmora asked, following the system's prompt to seek clarification. You seem uncertain. Jinho blinked, surprised. I am uncertain. I feel guilty that you were hurt because of us. So your statement contained both genuine relief and underlying guilt. I understand now. The conversation continued, slowly and carefully but successfully. They actually understood each other. It took 3 times longer than a normal conversation, but it worked. Ki-hyun watched the interaction with satisfaction. It's not perfect. The council chamber was enormous. It curved upward like the inside of a sphere, with hundreds of platforms jutting out from the walls at different heights. Each platform held a different species of alien. Some breathed atmosphere that shimmered and contained force fields. Others existed only as energy patterns or mathematical constructs. The translator systems hummed constantly, converting thousands of languages into something resembling meaning. Jinho stood on the human platform with Dr. Yuna beside him. The neuroscientist had been brought in specially from Earth, arriving on a fast ship just hours ago. She looked tired but determined, clutching her tablet like a shield. Members of the Galactic Council, Counselor Kresh's voice boomed through the chamber. We are here to address the human situation. Dr. Yuna of Earth will present her findings on human neural architecture. The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes or sensory organs or whatever they used focused on the small platform where 2 humans stood. Dr. Yuna took a deep breath and activated her presentation. A hologram of a human brain appeared in the center of the chamber, slowly rotating. This is the human brain, she began. Her voice was steady despite her obvious nervousness. It has approximately 86 billion neurons. For comparison, most species in the Council have between 10 and 40 billion. However, the number alone doesn't explain what happened to your psychics. The brain hologram lit up with different colors. Humans process information through multiple systems simultaneously. The prefrontal cortex handles logic and planning. The limbic system handles emotions. The motor cortex handles physical awareness. But unlike most species, these systems don't take turns. They all run at the same time, constantly feeding information to each other. An alien from one of the higher platforms spoke. Its voice came through as clicking sounds. This seems inefficient. Why would evolution favor such chaos? Because it works, Dr. Yuna said simply. Humans evolved as both prey and predator. We needed to run from bigger animals while also hunting smaller ones. We needed to solve problems while also watching for danger. We needed to cooperate in groups while also maintaining individual identity. The only way to do all of this was to process everything at once. She changed the hologram to show neural pathways lighting up. When a human thinks about something simple like eating an apple, multiple processes activate. We see the apple and imagine its taste. We remember other apples we've eaten. We consider if we're hungry. We think about where we left our food. We might remember a conversation about apples. We might plan to buy more apples. All of this happens in less than a second. That explains the multiple thought streams, Ambassador Velmora said from a medical platform below. The crystal being still looked damaged, colors swirling weakly, but it doesn't explain the contradictions. How can you think 2 opposite things simultaneously? Dr. Yuna nodded as if expecting this question. Human consciousness exists in layers. Let me demonstrate. She pulled up new data. A human can consciously think I am calm while subconsciously feeling panic. We can say I'm happy while simultaneously being sad. We can believe something is true while also doubting it. This isn't malfunction. It's a feature called cognitive flexibility. It sounds like lying to yourself, another alien said. Sometimes it is, Dr. Yuna admitted. But it also allows us to hold complex ideas. We can understand that something is both good and bad. We can see multiple perspectives on the same issue. We can plan for the future while learning from the past while living in the present, all at the same time. Coordinator Tixnall spoke up weakly. But the noise, the endless noise. How do you focus on anything? Dr. Yuna said. That's the interesting part. Humans have what we call selective attention. We don't actually pay attention to all our thoughts. Most of them run in the background. It's like how you might have music playing in another room. You know it's there, but you don't focus on it unless you choose to. She brought up another visualization. This is what we call the default mode network. When humans aren't focused on a specific task, our minds wander. We daydream. We imagine. We replay conversations. We plan scenarios that will never happen. Other species find this disturbing. But for humans, this is rest. This is how we relax. The chamber erupted in murmurs and clicks and chimes. The translator struggled to keep up. That can't be relaxing, one alien protested. That sounds exhausting. It is exhausting, Dr. Hana said, stepping forward to join the presentation. That's why humans need 8 hours of sleep per night. Our brains need time to sort through all the thoughts we accumulated during the day. Even then we dream, which means our brains keep working on problems while we sleep. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed different colors. I begin to understand the problem. Your minds are never at peace. You exist in a constant state of mental activity. Yes, Dr. Yuna confirmed, but we've adapted. Human culture, human art, human science, all of it comes from this mental chaos. We imagine things that don't exist and then make them real. We solve problems by thinking about them from multiple angles simultaneously. We create stories and music and mathematics because our minds naturally make connections between unrelated things. We've also developed coping mechanisms, Dr. Hana added. Meditation to quiet some of the noise. Music to organize our thoughts. Writing to externalize the internal conversation. Art to express the emotions we can't explain. Physical exercise to tire the body so the mind can rest. Healer Nimloth spoke from beside the injured psychics. I have a question. Do humans ever experience peace? True mental silence? The humans looked at each other. Finally, Jinho spoke. Very rarely. Maybe in deep meditation. Maybe in moments of extreme focus or danger when everything else falls away. Maybe for brief seconds when we wake up before our thoughts catch up to us. But mostly, no, our minds are always active. How do you survive? Another alien asked. How have you not all gone mad? Some of us do, Dr. Yuna said quietly. Humans have mental illnesses. Anxiety disorders where the noise becomes too loud. Depression where the thoughts turn dark. Conditions where the mental chaos overwhelms our ability to function. But most humans learn to live with it. We teach children how to organize their thoughts. We support each other through the difficult times. We build societies that accommodate our mental complexity. A new hologram appeared, this one showing brain activity over time. This is a human child learning to read. Notice how chaotic the neural activity is at first. The child is simultaneously trying to recognize letters, sound out words, remember similar words, understand meaning, and stay focused on the task. It looks like cognitive overload. The image changed. This is the same child 5 years later. The chaos is still there, but now it's organized chaos. The child has learned to manage multiple thought streams. This is what we call growing up. Humans spend their entire childhood learning to control the storm inside their heads. Counselor Kresh stood. I think we begin to see the scope of the issue. Humans are not hostile. They are not broken. They are simply operating on a cognitive level that our psychic species were never designed to process. But what does this mean for council membership? An alien asked. How can we work with a species we can't read? How can we trust them if we can't verify their intentions? Dr. Hana straightened. The same way humans trust each other. Through words, through actions, through time and experience. Humans lie to each other all the time because we can't read minds. We've built entire systems of law and diplomacy based on observable behavior rather than internal thoughts. We can teach you how. You want us to abandon psychic verification? The question came from multiple aliens at once, their shock evident. No, Jinho said. We want you to recognize that there's more than one way to build trust. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years without telepathy. We're very good at it by now. Ambassador Velmora's colors shifted slightly. I must speak. What I experienced in the human mind was terrifying, but I have had time to reflect. Perhaps the terror came not from the humans themselves, but from my own limitations. I have relied on telepathy my entire life. I have never needed to truly listen to words or watch for nonverbal cues. Perhaps humans are not the problem. Perhaps we psychics have become lazy. This caused another eruption of discussion. Some aliens agreed. Others protested. The chamber became a cacophony of competing opinions. Finally, Healer Nimloth raised a limb for silence. I propose a solution. We accept humans into the council provisionally. We learn their methods of communication. We develop new protocols for working with non-readable species. And perhaps most importantly, we train our psychics to handle complex mental landscapes. The humans are not the first species we will encounter with unusual cognition. They will not be the last. We must adapt, and if we can't adapt, an alien asked, then we limit our interactions, Healer Nimloth said. Some species in this council cannot physically meet due to environmental incompatibility. This would be similar. Psychic species could choose not to directly engage with humans. There is no shame in recognizing one's limits. The vote took hours. Arguments went back and forth. Some species threatened to leave the council if humans were accepted. Others threatened to leave if they weren't. In the end, the decision was narrow but clear. The humans were moved to a quarantine section of the station within an hour. Not arrested exactly, but not free to leave either. The rooms were comfortable enough with adjustable beds and food synthesizers that could make passable versions of Earth cuisine. But the doors were locked from the outside, and armed guards stood in the corridor. Jinho paced the main common area where his team had gathered. Through the window, he could see alien ships coming and going from the station, normal life continuing while they sat trapped. "This is absurd," Taeyang said for the 10th time. He sat on a couch with his head in his hands. "I was just thinking. Normal thinking. How is that a weapon?" "Nobody said it was a weapon," Dr. Hana reminded him gently. She had her tablet out and was reviewing everything she knew about psychic species. "They're probably just scared. We're an unknown variable." Pilot Minho stood by the window, his posture rigid and military straight. "3 of their psychics are in the hospital because of us." "Scared doesn't cover it. They probably think we're a threat. Are we?" Medical Officer Suji asked quietly. She sat in a corner, wrapped in a blanket despite the room being warm. "I practice meditation every day. My mind should be calm. But that creature looked into my head and collapsed. What if there's something wrong with us?" "There's nothing wrong with us," Jinho said firmly. He stopped pacing and looked at his team. They looked scared and confused. "We're human. That's all. Whatever happened, we'll figure it out." A chime sounded at the door. It slid open to reveal an alien Jinho hadn't seen before. This one looked reptilian with green scales and yellow eyes. It wore robes that seemed official, decorated with symbols that might have been rank insignia. "I am Counselor Kresh," the alien said through a translator device hanging around its neck. "I am not psychic, so you need not worry about my safety. May I enter?" "Please," Jinho said. Kresh entered and looked around at the humans with something that might have been curiosity. "The council is meeting now to discuss your situation. It is not going well. Half want to send you home immediately. A quarter want to study you like laboratory specimens. The rest are undecided. What do you want?" Dr. Hana asked. "I want to understand what happened," Kresh said simply. "Ambassador Velamora is awake now and able to speak. The description of what was experienced in your mind, Engineer Taeyang, is disturbing to say the least." Taeyang looked up. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I know. That is what makes this so concerning. You were not hostile. You were just being yourself." Kresh pulled out a device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed what looked like a recording, though not a visual one. More like a sound wave or energy pattern. "This is what a normal psychic reading looks like, see? Organized, linear. One thought, then the next, then the next. Clear purpose and direction. The pattern flowed smoothly like a river, gentle and predictable. And this," Kresh said, switching the image, "is what Ambassador Velamora encountered in your mind." The new pattern exploded across the hologram like fireworks. Dozens of streams all running at once, crossing and merging and splitting apart. Some moved forward, some backward, some in spirals. Music notes mixed with mathematical equations, mixed with images, mixed with emotions, all happening simultaneously. It was chaos given form. The human stared at it. Taeyang tilted his head. "That looks about right, actually." "About right?" Kresh's translator conveyed shock. "This is madness. How do you function?" "It's just thinking," Taeyang said, confused. "Doesn't everyone's mind look like that?" Dr. Hana stood up and moved closer to the hologram. Her scientific mind was already working. "Counselor, may I ask some questions?" "Of course. When you read other species, do they think about only one thing at a time?" "Generally, yes. There may be background emotions or subconscious processes, but conscious thought is singular and focused. Even species with multiple brain lobes maintain clear separation between thought streams. And humans don't," Hana said, understanding dawning. "We think about many things at once. Our conscious and unconscious thoughts blend together. We imagine conversations that aren't happening while having real ones. We replay memories while planning the future. We feel emotions about things that haven't occurred yet." "That sounds exhausting," Kresh said. "It is," Suji said from her corner. "But it's all we've ever known." Minho turned from the window. "Is that why they collapsed?" "Too much information at once?" "Partially," Kresh admitted. "But there's more. Coordinator Thixnell described your mind, Medical Officer Suji, as containing multiple layers. On the surface, you were calm and meditative. But underneath there was anxiety. And underneath that, awareness of the anxiety, and underneath that, frustration about the awareness, and underneath that, thoughts about breathing exercises, and underneath all of it, random memories and worries and songs and fears all mixed together. Suji pulled the blanket tighter. That's just my anxiety disorder. I manage it with meditation, but it never really goes away. How do any of you manage? Kresh asked, and there was genuine wonder in the question. Your minds contain multitudes, contradictions. You can believe two opposite things simultaneously. You can be happy and sad at the same time. You can think about something while actively trying not to think about it. Yeah, Taeyang said. That's being human. The door opened again. 2 more aliens entered, pushing floating stretchers. On them were Ambassador Velmora and Coordinator Thicksnull. Both looked diminished somehow, like their very essence had been damaged. Behind them came another alien, this one elderly-looking with pale skin and a serene expression. I am Healer Nimloth, the new alien said softly. I specialize in treating psychic trauma. I wanted these two to speak with you directly. Velmora's crystal body was still flickering with strange colors. When the telepathic voice entered their minds, it sounded fractured and uncertain. I need to understand. Do you know what your minds look like from the outside? No, Jinho admitted. We only know what they feel like from inside. I have read minds for 300 years, Velmora said. Thousands of species, millions of individuals. Every mind I have ever touched was like a clear pool of water. I could see to the bottom. I could understand the thoughts like reading text on a page. Your mind, engineer, was like being thrown into an ocean during a storm. No bottom, no clarity. Just endless waves of thought crashing from every direction. Taeyang looked stricken. I'm sorry. I didn't know. And yours, Thicksnull said, looking at Suji. The mantis being's voice was weak, was like a war between order and chaos. You were fighting yourself. One part of your mind trying to be calm, while another part screamed in panic, while another part observed it all and judged, and another part tried to fix it, and another part remembered times it worked before, and another part planned for future anxiety, and all of it happening at once in layers upon layers. That's what anxiety is, Suji said quietly. And I, the sphere of light said, now being carried by a robotic arm, encountered a mind that was running combat simulations even during a peaceful meeting. Pilot Minho, your mind treats every moment as a potential threat. You were analyzing exits, calculating response times, identifying weapons, measuring distances, all while simultaneously appearing calm and friendly on the surface. Minho's jaw tightened. Military training. It's automatic. How are you not insane? Thicksnull asked, and the question held no judgment, only confusion. How do you sleep? How do you focus? How do you accomplish anything when your minds are constantly at war with themselves? The humans looked at each other. Finally, Dr. Hana spoke. We don't know any different. This is normal for us. We've built our entire civilization while thinking like this. Every human who has ever lived has dealt with the same mental noise. We don't consider it a problem to be solved. It's just the condition of being human. Healer Nimloth nodded slowly. That is what we need the Council to understand. You are not broken or hostile. You are simply different in a way we have never encountered. Will they listen? Jinho asked. I don't know, Kresh said honestly. But we're going to try. Tomorrow, we've arranged for human experts to address the Council. You'll need to explain what it means to be human. For all our sakes, I hope you can make them understand. After the aliens left, the humans sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Taeyang spoke. Are we really that weird? Apparently, Minho said. I always wondered why humans did so well in crisis situations, Dr. Hana said thoughtfully. Maybe it's because our minds are always in crisis. We're used to chaos. Jinho looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, full of billions of humans all living with the same mental storm. They had never known they were strange. They had never known their minds were unusual. Tomorrow we teach them what it means to be human, he said. Let's hope they're ready to learn. Captain Jinho stood at the observation window of the transport ship and watched the massive station grow larger. It looked like a silver flower floating in space, with dozens of petals spreading out from a central core. Each petal was actually a docking bay for different alien species. Some needed cold environments, others needed heat or different types of air. The Galactic Council had thought of everything. Nervous? Dr. Hana asked as she came to stand beside him. Jinho shook his head. I've been in worse situations. At least nobody is shooting at us. Yet, Hana said with a small smile. She was joking, but Jinho could hear the tension in her voice. This was humanity's first real contact with the galactic community. They had been watched from a distance for decades, studied like animals in a zoo. Now they were finally being invited to join the adults at the table. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the airlock finally opened, Jinho led his team of 12 humans into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of something that looked like pearl and changed colors as they walked. Soft music played from somewhere, though Jinho couldn't tell if it was music or just the sound of alien conversations. A figure approached them from the other end of the corridor. It moved smoothly, almost floating above the floor. As it came closer, Jinho could see it was made of crystal. Not like ice, but like living glass that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. It had a roughly humanoid shape with 2 arms and 2 legs, but its head was elongated and had no visible eyes or mouth. "Welcome," a voice said directly in Jinho's mind. He managed not to flinch. "I am Ambassador Velmora of the Velrite species. I speak to your mind because sound is primitive and often unclear." "Thank you for having us," Jinho said aloud. He had been briefed that some species found telepathy uncomfortable, and humans were encouraged to speak normally unless asked otherwise. "You may speak however you wish," Velmora said. The crystal being turned slightly, and Jinho realized it was studying his team. "You will meet the council in 3 standard hours. Before that, we must complete the evaluation." Dr. Hana stepped forward. "The psychic reading?" "Yes, it is simple and painless. We have done this for every species that joins the council. It helps us understand how your minds work, what you need, how we can communicate better." Velmora gestured down another corridor. "Please follow me." The evaluation room was circular and comfortable. Soft chairs adjusted themselves as each human sat down. Jinho counted 7 other aliens in the room, each from a different species. One looked like a giant mantis with golden eyes. Another was covered in blue fur and had 6 arms. A third was just a floating sphere of light that hummed softly. "This is Coordinator Thixnell," Velmora said, indicating the mantis creature. "And these are other members of the Psychic Evaluation Committee. Together we represent the most powerful telepathic species in known space." Thixnell clicked its mandibles together, and a voice emerged that sounded like wind chimes. "We have read the minds of over 4,000 species. The process takes only minutes. You will feel nothing more than a slight warmth. Some species report pleasant memories surfacing." "And you need to do this for all of us?" Jinho asked. "A sampling is sufficient," Velmora said. 3 or 4 of your group. We will understand the general pattern of human thought." Dr. Hana raised her hand. "I have a question about consent protocols. Are the subjects aware of what thoughts are being accessed?" "We access only surface thoughts," Velmora assured her. "Deep memories and private experiences remain private unless voluntarily shared. Think of it as reading the cover of a book rather than the contents. And the humans can refuse?" "Of course. But refusal would delay council membership significantly. The evaluation is standard procedure." Velmora's tone remained pleasant, but there was something slightly condescending about it, like a parent assuring a child that a doctor's visit wouldn't hurt. Jinho looked at his team. "Volunteers?" Engineer Taeyang immediately stood up. He was young, barely 30, with messy hair and an eager expression. "I'll go first. I've got nothing to hide." "Excellent," Velmora said, moving toward him. "Please sit in the center chair." Taeyang sat down, looking excited rather than nervous. Jinho envied that. The young engineer had always been curious about everything, asking a million questions during the briefings about alien technology. Velmora approached and placed what looked like a crystalline hand on Taeyang's temple. The room grew quiet. The other psychics moved closer, clearly interested in humanity's first reading. Seconds passed. Then Velmora's entire body began to flicker. Colors swirled inside the crystal form, going from clear to orange to red. The hand pulled back as if burned. "Ambassador?" Dr. Hana stood up, concerned. Velmora stumbled backward. The graceful floating movement became jerky and uncoordinated. What? So many? The telepathic voice in their mind sounded fractured, confused. Thixnell rushed forward. What happened? What did you see? Everything. All at once. Contradictions, noise, music that isn't there, conversations with no one. Memories and imagination mixed. Past and future and present all. Velmora's color shifted to a dark purple. I need to sit down. Two other aliens helped Velmora to a chair. The crystal being seemed to be shaking, though Jinho wasn't sure how crystal could shake. Taeyang stood up looking worried. Did I do something wrong? I was just sitting here thinking normal thoughts. Normal? Thixnell turned its golden eyes to the engineer. You were thinking about this meeting. A song from your childhood. What you want for dinner? Someone named Mina. A broken machine, an argument that hasn't happened yet whether your socks match, and calculating fuel efficiency ratios, all simultaneously. Yeah, Taeyang said slowly. That's just regular thinking, is that not normal? The mantis being looked at Velmora, then at the other psychics. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. When Thixnell spoke again, its voice was uncertain. I will try. Perhaps Velmora simply needs more practice with your species. Medical Officer Suji volunteered next. She was older than Taeyang, calmer, with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. She practiced meditation daily and had been recommended by the psychological team as having an especially peaceful mind. Thixnell approached her carefully and placed its front limbs on her shoulders. The golden eyes closed in concentration. 5 seconds later, Thixnell collapsed to the floor. Smoke curled from its antennae. The other aliens rushed to help, but the mantis being was curled into a ball, making a high-pitched whining sound. I think we should stop, Jinho said firmly. But Pilot Minho was already standing. Let me try. I have military training, mental discipline. Maybe that's what you need. One of the other psychics, the floating sphere of light, moved toward Minho. It pulsed once, twice, and then suddenly dropped from the air like a stone. The light inside it flickered and went dark. The room erupted into chaos. Aliens were shouting in languages the translators couldn't keep up with. Medical teams rushed in with equipment Jinho didn't recognize. Dr. Hana grabbed his arm. Jinho, what just happened? He watched as the 3 psychics were carried out of the room on floating stretchers. All 3 looked traumatized, broken, like they had seen something that shattered their understanding of reality. I think, Jinho said slowly, we just failed our first test.